Okay, now I know this is the lip section, but it's probably a good time to say a little bit more about teeth, right? And people often ask me, how much do you need to know about teeth? And you don't need to know too much, but there are a few things you need to know. And so to break it down really quickly in this kind of pantograph dental scan, you have kind of incisors, you have premolars, and you have molars. Those are the three kinds of teeth that you have in your mouth. Well, and one more canine, right? You have just lateral to the incisors. Okay, so top and bottom, four incisors. You have two central incisors, two lateral incisors. We'll do the top first. And then we have next our canine teeth. And the canine tooth is actually the really important one for us, because when you're doing a mouth, right, the mouth, the lateral kind of commissure of the mouth, kind of the opening, right, is about at the edge of the canine tooth, right? So if you just kind of part your lips, you're seeing this row of teeth in the top, right? Incisors and canine. Kind of posterior to the canines are two premolars, and then you have up to three molars, right? So two premolars are these guys called bicuspids because they only have two little heads on them, as opposed to the molars, which have these four little surfaces, right? And then you have kind of the wisdom teeth back here, which are also molars. Okay, so really, I'm less concerned about these in the back of the mouth because you have to look pretty deeply inside of somebody's mouth to make them out. But these guys at the start are super important, and then maybe like a couple premolars as well. When you see a smile, when you see, you know, a scream or something like that, you have to be able to render these with reasonable fidelity. Okay, now the magic thing about the top versus the bottom teeth that make it actually work for chewing is that the teeth are smaller on the bottom, right? They're narrower. And so what happens, your four incisors on the bottom, two central ones right here, one, two, and then two lateral incisors, they're about a quarter width smaller than their corresponding upper teeth. And what that means is by the time you're to the canine teeth, these are actually offset by half of a tooth, right? So these dive into this notch above. Likewise, the premolars mate with the notch in between canine and premolar above. And so essentially all the teeth are offset half forward, right? And that's how they mate. So premolar, these are how they correspond going backwards. But this whole system gets messed up if you have an overbite or an underbite, right? And that kind of switches those. And so that's kind of something that you have to be aware of if you're doing teeth. Let's look at these teeth really quickly in an MRI scan. Okay, so we have this dental scan loaded in, and just do a quick kind of zoom around it and have a look. So I'm going to try to turn down the skin really quick so that we don't see too much of that. And a little bit of banding, but we'll try to ignore it. So incisors, canines, and so here's the upper canine and the lower canine. And the interesting thing is, when we look at this, is that we can, if I put the skin back on, you can start to appreciate the thickness of the lips relative to the bone, so the actual teeth, right? And there's a pretty good volume there, and you have to kind of imagine it. Imagine the contour of the lip going in, wrapping around, and then resting, the internal edge of the lip resting on top of the teeth, right? That's really the secret to rendering a believable set of lips, is you have to visualize the three-dimensionality of it, right? Because if you only appreciate them as a line going across the face, right, and some lines for the the vermilion border, then you're not going to really capture the kind of the roundness. And heaven forbid somebody opens their mouth, then you won't be able to do anything. Okay, so let me just show you kind of some of the musculature. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to work really well, but you can see a little bit of what's going on, at least masseter out here. Things are a little bit mushy around the orbicular region, but just kind of see if I can control it this way. We probably won't get too much good resolution through here, but you can certainly see kind of a, let me just try in here, a lot of stuff converging right there. If I stop it here, you can at least see buccinator passing out from underneath the masseter, and a lot of stuff going on here, which we know about. Okay, I'll just flip back to the slides now. Okay, now I wanted to give you guys another perspective after having just seen that about this kind of idea of understanding the lips versus the skull versus the teeth, right? And so we're going to talk about something called cephalography, and this is really kind of a cool little resource for us as artists, right? They're pretty much dental scans, right, for orthodontistry and, you know, fixing teeth and bites and stuff, but it gives us a great appreciation and a great resource for understanding the relationship between the bony profile and the what's known as the soft tissue profile, right? Because essentially it gives you the depth that you have to understand soft tissue, modifying the skulls that we've been drawing. And in fact, it's probably a lot more than you would expect. It's a lot more than I would expect. And so what we want to see is we want to see this idea, right? This is the idea of the thickness of the lips, kind of rolling in on themselves. The thickness of the chin fat over the actual bony prominence of the chin. Okay, and so I have a few of these loaded in, and we'll just kind of look at them. This guy has a pretty normal cephalogram, except for I think he has a little bit of a wonky tooth in front, which is why he's there. But really nice to see the profile. And we're going to get a chance to work on some profile, I think, a little bit this week in the assignments. And then you would see the teeth going up like this, or the inside of the lips. Okay, and this girl has what's known as class 2 malocclusion, which is an overbite. And this is just kind of interesting because it means that the teeth really are driving the soft tissue profile, right? So they're driving the orientation of the lips relative to each other. And so in kind of front view, these wouldn't give us the classic interaction that we've kind of seen, right? The 3 lobes on the upper lip interacting with the 2 lobes below. But there would be quite a big separation between the two. So they couldn't actually fit our standard configuration. The opposite of class 2 malocclusion is class 3 malocclusion, which is what you give your character if you want him to look really kind of surly and have, you know, dental problems, I guess, trouble chewing. But you get a big projection of the lower lip, and in fact the lower teeth advance in front of the upper teeth, and so your smile is all sorts of different. Okay, so why does this really matter to us? Why do teeth matter to us? Because not everything is a closed mouth, right? And when we're rendering stuff, it actually takes a lot of understanding to be able to render the thickness of the lips, right? Not just thickness of the averted stuff on a closed mouth, right? That's relatively straightforward, right? Oh yeah, okay, that's a mouth, that's the philtrum and the nose coming up like this, right? It's not going to get better than that, don't worry. But on the open lip, you have to really understand the the thickness, right? So all of this goes back into the mouth, right? And part of our exercise for this week is to build lips on the skull, right? And I'm just going to kind of try to visualize the skull, the teeth going up, right? So if we kind of block in the dental arch going up and back and kind of zygomatic bone on her, right? Teeth coming down. So really what happens if you find the center line of the teeth, the center line of the teeth is here. The center line of the nose is up here, and you can kind of see the differential thickness right there. And so I'm just going to erase this and show you if I had to draw this back up. This is the inside of the lip, and then it comes out and it curls out like that. That's a cross section through the lip, right? And if you take that same cross section and you move it out this way, it's going to do that. And same with this. And then all the way to the edge, right? You're essentially rolling this vermilion back onto the teeth. And that's the most important thing, is to get that sense. And then you connect the dots across all of this. Right, and then you can just kind of extrapolate that line all the way around like you're extruding it, and that goes inside the mouth. And these two surfaces, the upper and lower lips, mate on the inside, right? And the same can be done with the lower teeth, right? And the lower lip, this is the center line of the teeth going down. This is actually the center line of the lip, right? So you can kind of feel, if you bear with me, that that's the center line of the chin. All right, so this is going to be a cross section. That's going to be kind of what the cross section would look like through the lower lip. And there'd be another one, and another one, and another one. And you get the idea, but all of this presupposes a good idea of where the teeth are. And that's kind of why we've been building skulls, right? So that we can appreciate the structure underneath. And this is a super place where all of that becomes very evident if your construction holds up, right? Because that's a peek into the bony structure, right? So again, this one is, if we kind of have our dental arch from our skull, our sunglasses, temporal line is nicely defined. Our dental arch going back, mouth open, so lower teeth are probably hanging out in here as well. Just doing this really quickly. Right, and so canine teeth probably lie about where the lateral bit of the nose is, so those would be in here, and then we're looking at incisors, so 2 incisors, and that's pretty much what we see. So this is 2 incisors, canine, and then back to the molars. And again, if this is our skull, our lip is rolling out like this, and I'm going to do a slightly different color to make this a little bit more believable. Lip rolls out like this, and that's kind of where the cross section would be. And then if you wanted to just extrapolate that and down on across the teeth, you can start to see it on the inside, right? Makes sense. Okay, and then we're back. When we get out to the outside of the lower lip, we're back to some of those forms that we talked about earlier, right? A little bit of the pillars of the mouth, a little bit of modiolus going up here, some nasolabial furrow, etc., etc. Okay, another example, really just trying to roll, so center line of the teeth, center line of the lip, right? You have to really reconcile that difference. Right? Otherwise, if you just kind of follow the teeth for putting your lip in anything other than the front view, it wouldn't work, right? Because these are offset by quite a bit of thickness. And another good example of this kind of two-lobe configuration of the lower lip, right? Look at that. Right there and right there. Okay, or another reason why you might want to just use an open mouth, because you could be Bernini, and pretty much everything that didn't have a beard that he sculpted, meaning females and guys without a beard, had an open mouth. So again, bony structure, open the jaw, find the line of the teeth, even if it's just approximate, and then you can break down the teeth into your incisors if you have to, right? Upper jaw, kind of extrapolating it. Nasal spine, again, remember those cephalograms, the nasal spine is pretty deep within the nasal tissue as well, so that's pretty far back in there. Right, so from our skull, then we can build up the lips over top, right? Right, those are the teeth. I think I might have been that a little sloppy down there, but then kind of center line and out. And you get the idea. I'll just show you a couple more. Open mouth. You look at the configuration here. Appreciate the thickness. Appreciate the interaction with the teeth. You'll see it again and again and again and again. Pretty much, I think he reused that same mouth on every female that he did. That's it. I challenge you to find a female Bernini sculpture with closed lips. Okay, put it in the forum if you do. Okay, and I'll just do a quick mock-up of what I'm thinking with this. Okay, so for your assignment, part of it anyways, you're going to have to do this. You can have a couple skulls, and we know a lot about the skulls now. We know about eyes, we know about nose, we know about fat, we know about skeletal muscles. So we're almost to a place where we can build this out entirely. But I wanted to concentrate this little part of the exercise on the lips, right, and getting that thickness that we're talking about, that we're just looking at, right? So I'm just going to quickly block in kind of a little bit of a 3/4 view of what we were looking at in those cephalograms, right? We were looking at some lip cross-section looks like that, right? And like that on the lower lip, right? Just going straight on the center line, right? And what that's going to give me if I kind of consider the same thing, and I'm just going to take the inside edge of this thing and I'm just going to dot it around and try to get the opening of my mouth, right? Looking at kind of the incisor as the lateral portion, right? So canine, central incisor, lateral incisor, canine out here. So on this little mouth, we're just kind of looking at this and we're kind of inscribing this on the teeth, right, to understand exactly where we're going to be adding depth, right? So it's a little bit artificial, but it's the right way. And then we build, essentially we're going to be rolling cross sections like this out from there to kind of give us the thickness of our lip. Right, and so then once we have a couple of those, we can kind of interpolate between them. And if this is the center line, we can build the philtrum, or kind of the cupid's bow up here, and the philtrum either side. So the philtrum is going to be this kind of U-shaped thing, and then we just keep an eye on these contours going around, and they're going to fall to the other side of the teeth. So we're going to miss them. Just after we get here. So I'll just block in this line of the teeth. Going around. And certainly if you're working on these assignments, right, there's no better reference than yourself, right? So get a mirror and look at how this works, because that is really important, right? That's as concrete as it gets. It's right in front of you, so you can use it. Okay, So he's actually a little bit thin on the lower lip, but I'm okay with that. And then the other thing, if I kind of follow this profile down, right, we can kind of, I'm trying to trace on the center line of the jaw down here. And then this would be kind of the fatty prominence, right? So that's kind of the chin fat. And if I'll just kind of cross-hatch the cross-section, this furrow right here between the transition between the chin and the jaw, we'll just extend that horizontally. And then we can look at also kind of this this U shape, this inverted kind of shape that we see transitioning here with the pillar of the mouth, some of the other forms that we know happening here in the modiolus, stretched a little bit because the mouth is open, but still relevant. Modiolus is going to give us a line going back to the zygomatic arch. That's what he does. We also have the opening of orbicularis oris, right? So the lateral boundary up here. I'm just going to ghost it in, right? It's not a concrete form to see necessarily, but we do see sometimes that transitional wedge here between nostril and nasolabial furrow. Okay, now we're on to the nose, right? And we've seen a little bit about the nose already. So we kind of just find our center line, decide what we want to do with the septal cartilage, and then the septal cartilage is going to loop back down like that onto back into the nasal opening. This is the bony septum in there, and then we're going to kind of build out alar cartilage, right? So we're going to clamp on to the end of this, right? And this is the kind of complicated shape, right? This is the shape that we've seen in dissection a few times, kind of bulbous like that, with a flat plane on the edge, and then that wraps around and joins into, kind of flips over and becomes the, so kind of columella, and then it flips over and becomes the convex columella concave philtrum right up here. We need to kind of put some nostrils over to this guy, so let's just try to stretch these nostrils that I have. This guy's nose isn't too big, which is good. Normally I would draw huge noses. Hey, we even know a little bit about nasalis coming down here. I won't do too much with him. Up here, we haven't looked at it, but there's quite a bit of depth between the nose bone right here. So the nasion is what it's called. Hard nasion and soft nasion. So there's a big muscle that goes down there that we have to account for. And I'm just going to roll some skin on top of this in profile. And then kind of we're out to orbits, okay? And let me just see what's going on with orbits. I'm going to do the bottom teeth really quick. So again, where's the incisors, right? So central incisors, lateral incisors, and I think that's the canine here. Harden up my bottom edge, and then right where it wraps around on the teeth. Okay, and now let's just go up and look at the orbits. I'm not going to do this entirely, just for brevity's sake, because our main focus this week is nose and lips, but just kind of looking at kind of a little bit of fat up here, a little bit of fat out here. That's fine. Let's just kind of look at a couple lines of symmetry, or kind of perspective lines through the orbits, just to make sure that everything is kind of being cast back into the right planes. And I think probably I just need a little bit more attention to some of the bottom lip, have to complete the chin, so it's good to get this going. Even though the chin is kind of pointy, it still has some width, so you want to get that going. Some flat angles, you want to get that going correctly into perspective as well. So probably in here, you know, depending on how much malar fat, this plane here does different things. Have at the very least coming from the corner of the mouth in here, zygomatic major going out around the corner, so you'll have maybe some fat going over top of that. And I'm not going to complete the orbit, but I am just going to say that pay attention to this angle, and it's going to give rise to this fold. And also, of course, find your canthal tendon insertion. So the medial canthal tendon across this furrow, the very start of our infraorbital furrow, and the lateral canthal tendon, remember he's buried back here about 1 centimeter below this fissure, right? So wrap eyelids around a ball from there, right? And that will get your eyes in the right place. Okay, so I think that is going to be it. I mean, we can just continue. This is going to be your exercise for the week, so you can fill this out to the surface as much as you want. We know quite a bit of this stuff already. In fact, you can even kind of work it up in écorché as well, which might be a little bit more instructive and informative. So you can block in some of the fat pads that we've talked about. Malar fat pad in here. The buccal fat pad coming off from in here and up, and we will get to all the facial muscles next week, so that will kind of complete our picture of all these drawstrings in here. We've kind of alluded to them this week, but we don't know them categorically, so we'll leave that until next week. Okay, so that is it. I will give you guys a couple exercises to do this week. And great. Thanks. And I will see you again next week.